Happening now on Grid Tonight. The entry list is out for this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans. Who are some of your super early favorites to be contenders come race day? Jack Doohan is already under pressure, and the 2025 Formula One season hasn't even started yet. Is Doohan really racing for his F1 future, or could recent media reports just be baseless rumors? Josef Newgarden is aligning himself with Rich Paul. What's the major benefit of Newgarden's decision to join the Klutch Sports Group? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambeth. With me are Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. We encourage everyone to interact with us in the chat, support us through Super Chat, and visit gridnetworktv.com for our latest content. Now here's Josh with our top story this evening. Got a busy news night.
We really do. There's a lot to get through. It's been a very busy week as the seasons start kicking off for everything as well, and preparation well underway for motorsport racing around the world. Good evening, Kobe. Good evening, Matt. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the show that is very quickly becoming motorsport's answer to the Daily Show. There's a lot going on that we love talking about. So let's get straight into it and start with some good hypercar news as well, and GT3s and LMP2, because on Monday morning, the entry list for this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans was released. 62 cars are entered. That's 21 in hypercar, 17 in LMP2, and 24 in LMGT3. Starting with hypercar, the entry list is absolutely stacked with full season entries as well from the World Endurance Championship, and 3 additional entries for Le Mans only. We'll see 2 entries from the Aston Martin Thor team, Toyota Gazoo Racing, Cadillac Hertz Team Jolta, BMW M Team WRT, Alpine Endurance Team, and the Peugeots as well. There are also 2 factory-backed entries from Ferrari AF Corsa and the regular AF Corsa entry to see the return of 3 prancing horses going for overall honours. We also have the customer Porsche entry from Proton Competition. And now let's take a look at the 3 Le Mans only entries as well. Porsche Penske Motorsports have 2 full-time entries entered, obviously, but they're adding a 3rd factory Porsche with Felipe Nasr and Nick Tandy representing the car from the IMSA WeatherTech Championship as well. There are 2 additional IMSA entries from Cadillac. Aston Martin Express Racing returned to Le Mans with Jack Aitken, Felipe Drugovich, and Frederick Vesti. One of the most notable additions is Wayne Taylor Racing receiving an invite, who plans to have Ricky Taylor, Jordan Taylor, and Philippe Albuquerque. Graphics in this segment courtesy of the FIA World Endurance Championship. Now, Wayne Taylor Racing has also been involved as well, with a statement that's come out saying it has always been our plan to go to Le Mans with a shot at the overall win. When I was there with Cadillac in 2002, I was driving and both my kids were with me as spectators. Now, 20 years later, they are here driving for me with Cadillac. It's very exciting. Cadillac has been an amazing race car. This is such an important event to... Apparently my camera's a little fuzzy, so I'll just change it quickly. Cadillac has been built an amazing race car. This is such an important event. And to be competitive, you must arrive with everything in place. I believe we now have the car to beat. With the combination of Cadillac and our team partners at Jolta and AXR, we have a really strong organization. We are grateful to have a chance to compete at Le Mans. That's from Wayne Taylor, team principal, of course, at WTR. Kobe, starting with you on this one, I will try and get the camera sorted if I'm still fuzzy. Does it seem like the battle for the overall win will be more competitive compared to last year? And how exciting will it be to see Wayne Taylor Racing at Le Mans?
Yeah, it seems like every single year it just gets better, right? That the hypercar class is continuing to take off. We see these stacked driver lineups year after year, and the battle for the overall win of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. It seems like whenever you think it can't get better, it just does. It's just a really exciting time to be a sports car fan. I know I probably sound like a broken record by now if you heard my answers to the previous questions on past shows, but yeah, it's a really great time to be in sports car racing, because we're in that golden age right now of prototype racing. All of these different manufacturers. I know right now the Ferraris might look like the favorites to repeat, especially after the season opening race in Qatar. We'll have more from the World Endurance Championship season opener and our Grid Endurance Performance Index update later on in the show. But it's just so amazing. I'm honestly speechless. You know, when you look at the entry list and you see all of these major names in sports car racing, all of these manufacturers, and there are so many cars who can potentially win the 24 Hours of Le Mans. It's obviously way too soon to say who's going to be my pickle winner for the 24 Hours of Le Mans, because we still have a few more World Endurance Championship races to get through before we get down to the nitty gritty in the summertime. But there's at least, 10, 11, 12, 13, maybe even 14 or 15 cars who could go out there and win the 24 Hours of Le Mans. This is how competitive it is. And from IMSA, it's good to see that we're going to have an extra Porsche Penske Motorsport prototype on the grid there. And also Action Express. I know their first couple of times racing at Le Mans has been kind of difficult for them, so I'm sure they hope to improve and be more in the mix. And then get Wayne Taylor racing finally at Le Mans. No, Wayne Taylor has said time and time again he wants to bring his team to Le Mans and compete for the overall win, and that is finally happening now. Unfortunately, when they were with Acura, that wasn't able to happen because Acura's, gone on the record a few times saying that they have no interest in going to Le Mans right now. Hopefully that will change in the future. It'll be really nice to see Acura competing for the overall win at Le Mans. But Cadillac want to be in all the big races. They want to be in the Rolex 24. They want to be in the 24 Hours Le Mans. So to switch to Cadillac, made this a possibility for Wayne Taylor to get that entry for his sons Ricky and Jordan Taylor, and also Felipe Albuquerque as well, who has also been on the record saying that he wanted to compete for the overall win at Le Mans again. So Wayne Taylor gets to go to one of the biggest sports car races in the world with both of his sons, and Felipe Albuquerque gets to fulfill his wish as well. Really looking forward to seeing how this team is going to do in its first go around. Kind of like with Action Express and IMSA, when we're having the Rolex 24, 12 Hours of Sebring, the 6 Hours of the Glen, the Petit Le Mans, or even the Battle on the Bricks at the IMS Road Course. Action Express is, usually up there competing, same as Wayne Taylor Racing. And when Action Express went over to the other side of the pond in the World Endurance Championship, they were essentially like a back marker, in the class, having a very hard time. So I want to see how Wayne Taylor Racing is going to adjust to being in the World Endurance Championship, since it's going to be brand new to them. Are they going to be right in the thick of the field? Are they going to be battling for the win, or is it going to be like Action Express, who's had a really tough time in their short Le Mans tenure?
Good evening, Kobe. Good evening, Josh. Hello, everybody. Happy March to everybody. Our first show of month 3 of the year. This is big, isn't it? I mean, as you say, Kobe, Wayne has been trying to get there for a while in whatever shape or form he could do. And with all the rules coming together over the last couple of years, this opened the opportunity for him. And as you say, Acura kind of declining any interest in going to France. Maybe that will change in the future now with the full HRC lineup link up that they've got going for this year. But we'll have to see how that progresses. But switching back to Cadillac, as we saw from the statement, he's got history there with this brand, and now he's bringing his two boys back together to run with Felipe Albuquerque. That is just a strong driver lineup as it is. I think it's really good. If you're ready to tune into the Sebring 12 Hours next weekend, expect there to be a lot of this chat on the broadcast over the weekend, and then talking to Wayne and etc., because that's going to be one of the key talking points, I'm sure, on the NBC portion of the broadcast. So big to have a fully fledged American team that aren't just coming in to this just to do this race. It's a full IMSA lineup. So really, really good, really exciting. And with the other, 3 Cadillacs on the entry list, plenty for the American fan to cheer in the top class and below, as we'll get to in a moment.
Yes, and in LMP2, there are 17 entries representing IMSA, European Le Mans Series, and Asia Le Mans Series to make up the grid as well. Adam says he can't wait for the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So much history regarding memories, drivers, and cars that have competed, and definitely that can be said for LMP2 as it makes its only appearance on the WEC calendar this season. Now, Jamie Chadwick will make a Le Mans debut with IDEX Sport. United Autosports is back with 2 entries, and the most notable driver in their lineup is IMSA regular Rainier Zandervan as well, coming in. Now, leading in the number 22 team as well. Now, that's Renger van der Zande. My God, my eyes are really closing today, aren't they? Theo Pourchaire will make his Le Mans debut with the Algarve Pro Racing. Inter Europol competition is bringing up a solid lineup with Jacob Szymanski as well, Tom Dillman, and Nick Yellerly as well. Now, coming in, we'll also see the AO Racing by TF Sport bringing Spike the Dragon back to Le Mans with PJ Hyatt, Dane Cameron, and another driver that is yet to be announced. Matt, starting with you on this one as well. Who will we have the most to gain by competing in LMP2 this year?
It's going to be interesting. It was a good race in LMP2 that was raced last year from memory. It's their, as you said, Josh, it's their only appearance in the World Endurance Championship of the season, and now we know it's the full top class in the European Le Mans Series, as it was in the Asian Le Mans Series, which we've talked about in the Grid EPI over the last couple of weeks. Plenty of spaces on that entry list still to fill out with drivers, of course, and we talked last week about Logan Sargent being on that list until last week when he stepped away from his program, so another seat's opened up there. Who's got the most to gain? I think you're going to see the regulars at the front, United, Edex Sport, Algarve Pro Racing. They're going to be the big sort of free hitters in this race that we're talking about, and of course in the European Le Mans Series as a whole. A little bit more coverage on the European Le Mans Series we get further in this is the year on the Grid Network, we hope. Yeah, there's plenty of drivers and plenty of good teams in that category. Good to see Renger getting across there and jumping in with United, because he will be an absolute gun in that car. Anything he goes in, he goes very well in. So that's good to see. And yeah, plenty of more drivers to fill, which will perhaps fill out more of the full season European Le Mans Series entries that are yet to be announced as well.
Yeah, there's still a lot to look forward to when it comes to the European Le Mans Series later in the year, but focusing on the grid for 24 Hours Le Mans, I think all 17 of these entries, they're going to come out swinging because, as we've been saying, this is their only time this year that they're going to be on the big stage in the World Endurance Championship, since the WEC has decided to prioritize the hypercars and all the LMGT3s over LMP2, because if you had LMP2 in there, you would have to cut down on the other entries. And with the hypercar class exploding in entries, I think that they're probably ended up making the right decision to make sure you can get all of those manufacturers in there. And they've even talked about, adding more space for Le Mans, like you building even more garages so we can have more cars. You already got 62. It makes you wonder how many more cars we could have. I remember the days when we had garage 56, and now we're up to 62. It's just continuing to grow, and it's just a beautiful thing to see for sports car racing. But if I'm looking at one driver in particular, with something to prove, who can probably gain a lot from not just the 24 Hours Le Mans, but overall this season in LMP2 is Théo Pourchaire. I think this is a great opportunity for him to show what he can do in sports car racing. I know it's going to be brand new to him, and I believe he's also the reserve driver for the Peugeot hypercar program, which is really struggling right now. I'll be surprised if they're still in the sport 2 to 3 years from now, given how much they've struggled. But still, it's a good opportunity for him to be affiliated with a hypercar program and showing the great speed we saw from him when he was in Formula 2, when he was an F1 reserve driver, and the limited running we saw for him with Aaron McLaren in the NTT IndyCar Series. I think Théo Pourchaire is an extremely talented race car driver. It's a shame he's not in an IndyCar grid this year, or even on the F1 grid. I think he's a really great driver, but being able to run the 24 Hours Le Mans as a Frenchman and get a full season of LMP2 in the European Le Mans Series, I think it's going to be a really good experience for him.
Now, once again, the LMGT3 will see a diverse lineup of different manufacturers, with most entries from the WEC and a few one-offs. 2 Aston Martins from the Heart of Racing team and the Racing Spirit of Le Mans. TF Sport will field 2 Corvettes, and an additional Corvette entry will come from IMSA GTD team as well. The AWA Racing with Aurel Ferdani as well, Lars Kern and Matt Bell behind the wheel. Now we'll see 5 Ferraris from Vista AF Corsa Castle Racing, Richard Millet AF Corsa, and the Ziggo Sport Tempster as well. Now Team WRT is fielding 2 BMWs, 2 McLarens from United Autosport. Proton Competition is representing Ford with a pair of Mustang GT3 entries, plus 2 Lexus entries from a Codis ASP team. Porsche will have 3 entries, 2 from the Manthey and a 3rd from the Iron Dames, who are back with Porsche, and they will have Selena Martin joining Rachel Frey and Sarah Bovey behind the wheel as well. Meanwhile, the Iron Lynx will enter 3 Mercedes AMG GT3s as well. Now, with 62 cars entered altogether, there are also 6 entries on the reserve list. There are 3 LMP2s from DKI Engineering, the Duquesne team and Vector Sport, 2 Ferraris from GR Racing and JMW Motorsport in the LMGT3, and a second Proton Competition Porsche in Hypercar. Now, these teams will have to play the waiting game and hope that other confirmed entries withdraw from Le Mans. Now, which LMGT3 driver lineup immediately caught your eye? And do you think that it's fair for the Proton second Hypercar entry to have to sit on the reserve list?
Well, when I look at with the entry list, the one lineup that really caught my eye is one of the Iron Lynx's Mercedes, and it's the entry with Stephen Grove, Brennan Grove, and the Mercedes factory driver Luca Stoltz. And I was just reading recently about this story. I know Adam will really appreciate this in the chat room, because the Groves have the supercars team, the Penrite Racing team. And they also have a sports car racing program as well that's been competing in GT World Challenge Australia, and also you've seen them in the Bathurst 12-hour year after year as well. And I was reading the story about the Grove family and how they're so excited to go to the 24 Hours of Le Mans. How this is like one of the last big endurance races that they want to compete in here, and they're going to be able to do this in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So very exciting time for the Grove family to be able to race in one of the biggest sports car races on the planet, and then to be with a great manufacturer like Mercedes, with a solid team like the Iron Lynx, and then you have a factory driver, Lucas Stoltz, who's one of the best you can possibly get in this situation. So I think the Groves have a really good thing going for them in Le Mans LMGT3, and there's still a whole bunch of great driver lineups, but that's what I'm going to choose since we don't really have that much time to go through lineup by lineup. And in regards to the Proton second hypercar entry sitting on the sidelines, yeah, I was a little surprised to see a hypercar, like that, especially a Porsche hypercar on the reserve list. But hey, at least they got first dibs if someone's going to pull out. So, I think 9 times out of 10, when the first entry list comes out, you're going to see someone pull out. So I'm confident that the second Proton Porsche is going to end up getting into the race some way, somehow. But I think unless it's a questionable hypercar entry, I think these hypercars, they should be able to get on the entry list. I understand you want to be fair to the LMGT3 teams and the LMP2s, but I really think if you have a hypercar ready to go and it's going to be a high quality program that Proton puts together, I feel like that should have been on the original entry list. It's not like it's a Van Wall or something else floating out there, which would probably be on the reserve list if they had put out an entry. But yeah, I was a little surprised to see the Proton second hypercar Porsche be on the reserve list.
I have to agree with you about the Groves. Lots of people were very skeptical when the rules changed a couple of years ago to it was the beginning of last year, wasn't it, when we brought GT3 into the WEC at the expense of GTE. But this is great for those regional based teams like Grove Racing that ply their trade at home. And they've been to Dubai for the 24 hours. They've done the Golf 12 hours. Bathurst, as you mentioned, of course, Stephen Grove was the man that had the big crash at the top of the hill in the 12 hours and damaged his back at the beginning of February. They've done the national series, and they can do those regional stuff. And then if they get the opportunity to go to the big show at Le Mans, I mean, it is tremendous. Hopefully we get to see a few more of those national or regional entries for someone from Asia, another European, or like maybe even a British team from the British GT Championship, if that was ever to happen, or even someone from GT World Challenge USA to come over. That would be great. So that's all really positive. Hypercar Porsche on the reserve list. You're right. There is probably going to be one team pull out, some shape or form, crash, drivers injured, or pull out, lose funding, etc., etc. That kind of happens pretty much every year. I would have liked to have seen another LMP2 car at the top of the list, if I'm totally honest, as this is their only one and only shot to be in a WEC race. But as we talked about, there's plenty of those on the list anyway. And Proton have already got one bullet in the chamber with their full WEC entry in the race. So going to be interesting to see how that works out. Adam is with us, Kobe. He's looking forward to seeing how the Groves do at Le Mans in June.
Would like just to apologise quickly if I am misreading anything or skip ahead in the script. My right eye, you might see, is vibrating. It's part of a medical condition I've got, which I have to wear glasses for, but my current glasses are not doing the stuff, so I can't wear them at the moment, and I'm currently getting some new ones for an optician, so I apologise if I'm going above or below the script. We'll move on to our second story tonight with a half-blind presenter. Now, despite getting the promotion to the full-time Formula One seat, the Formula One driver for Alpine, Jack Doohan's future with the team might be up in the air before even getting on track for his first home race at next weekend's Australian Grand Prix. There have been numerous reports in the media suggesting that Doohan could be replaced early in the season in favour of Alpine reserve driver Franco Colapinto. Now, according to a report from motorsport.com, people inside the F1 paddock believe that Doohan will have a lot of pressure on him from the start because Flavio Briatore may not hesitate to put Colapinto in the car and get sponsorship money from South America. Now, it is believed that Doohan has a clause in his contract that could see Alpine release him after the first 5 or 6 races, and some speculate that Doohan was thrown into the car at Abu Dhabi as a way of setting up to fail early. When Doohan attended the press conference at F175, instead of being asked the typical questions you'd ask a rookie, he was asked if he felt threatened by Colapinto, who is on a long-term contract as a reserve driver, and Doohan defended himself. Now, the Alpine team principal, Ollie Oakes, praised Doohan for how he's handled this situation by blocking out the noise and thinks that people need to give Doohan some space. However, it probably doesn't help when you see Briatore posting photos of himself with Colapinto on his social media pages, who praised Colapinto for being one of the best young and quick drivers for the future. The link to this article is in the video description below, and the photo courtesy there of Formula One. Well, certainly it was a topic during pre-season testing. Ollie Oakes coming out and saying, well, the British media made this up. The media made this up. Yeah, and as Ted Kravitz rightly pointed out, we weren't the ones who were posting photos. We weren't the ones who were signing Franco Colapinto. So my question is simple. Do you feel bad for Jack Doohan, who is already facing tons of pressure in the media so early on before the 2025 season even begins?
Yeah. You think back to Monaco in May when we had Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon crash into each other on the first lap. All the focus was then going to be on, would Ocon be benched for a race or more? And all the attention was on Jack, who had kind of hit the ceiling in F2. He'd done the right thing. He'd won races. He'd been in the championship contention, hadn't won it, but was in contention the year before, and said, I don't want to go and do F2 again. I want to base myself with the Alpine team for the year and make sure I can get myself in the shop window for a full-time ride, if anything was to happen to the full-time drivers, which of course it has with Esteban Ocon moving on. For this year, does one of his 5 or 6 races include Abu Dhabi? We don't know if this is even a real thing. I do feel bad for him because, forget Abu Dhabi happened. Let's say that race he hadn't taken part. His first race would be his home Grand Prix. He's going to be, let's say, his home Grand Prix next weekend at Melbourne. All of the Australian media will be around him, and he's on home turf, and they're all going to be asking the same question: are you going to be in the car once we get back to Europe? Surely there's got to be some kind of clause or some sort of performance marker he has to hit, perhaps, to keep him in there, points scored or podium, or that's very unlikely, or something to keep him. But yeah, I mean, to go into your first full-time season and already look like you're on the chopping block is not great for anyone, let alone, as I say, a rookie coming into the season. If this had been, I don't know, Fernando Alonso perhaps being replaced by someone at Aston Martin or someone that's been around the sport for a long time, then it's perhaps slightly different. But for a fully fresh rookie, minus that one Grand Prix at Abu Dhabi coming in, it must be. I was blocking out the noise, yes or no. It still must be. If once he puts his head on the pillow at night or on the plane to Melbourne, you're going to be thinking about, how many races have I got with this team? And we all said it at the time when Colapinto was hired. That's, that puts pressure on the two lead drivers, and the French team aren't going to get rid of Pierre Gasly, are they?
No, it doesn't seem like the French team will get rid of the French driver in Pierre Gasly, but they got rid of the other French driver in Esteban Ocon. We'll see how he gets along later this season at Haas. But yeah, it's a real difficult situation for Jack Doohan. I feel really bad for him because I've watched Jack Doohan progress up the road to F1 ladder system, and like you said, Matt, he did everything that he needed to do and maxed out in Formula 2 to get this opportunity. And last year, even sat out most of the racing season, being Alpine's reserve driver, just focusing on that. And I've read the stories of how Jack Doohan has this incredible work ethic, how he stayed up to 3 a.m. working on data to try to help, Gasly and Ocon with what they set up for qualifying and all of that to help the cars get faster. And they credited Doohan for, working long, hard hours, going above and beyond on what it means to be a Formula One reserve driver. So Jack Doohan, he really worked hard and earned this opportunity to be a full-time F1 driver for Alpine. But as we know, money talks in business, and based on the reports we're seeing, it seems like Briatore is really interested in Colapinto and some of the cash that he can bring from South America. We've seen that happen time and time again, and I do think Colapinto has a bright future in Formula One if he gets another opportunity to be in a race seat, which I think will eventually happen, whether it's this year or next year. But to be a young driver like Jack Doohan, this is supposed to be an exciting time for him. He's after dreaming of being a Formula One driver for all these years, all of those hours that you've put in, all of the hard work, you finally make your dream happen. And next weekend is supposed to be the most exciting time of your F1 career at the very beginning, because you're going to be racing in front of your hometown crowd at Albert Park in Melbourne, Australia. It's supposed to be, such a thrilling experience. And for him having this cloud hanging above his head before the season even begins, it really has to suck. It's supposed to be all about the pomp and circumstance, the excitement of the Aussie fans, getting on their feet and cheering for you as you're driving around the track. But instead, you'll have like 50-50, be balancing the emotions of, yes, I'm finally a full-time F1 driver. I'm finally racing in my home Grand Prix at Australia. But at the same time, I'm also racing for my job. And when you put that pressure on a young driver like Doohan, sometimes the pressure will be too much. People are going to be looking for every single mistake that he's going to make on track, even the smallest mistake. And as soon as Jack Doohan makes a mistake on track, guess what the cameras are going to do? They're going to pan to the Alpine garage and they're going to show Franco Colapinto, standing right there. We already know that they're going to do that. So Jack Doohan really hate the situation that he's in. I understand the business aspect of Flavio Briatore potentially being interested in the sponsorship dollars from South America that Franco Colapinto can bring to the organization. I know Alpine will be very happy to get additional sponsorship dollars. Yeah, so I get that part, but Jack Doohan really hate to see the situation that he's in. Hopefully, he responds to the pressure in a positive way, goes out there, doesn't put a wheel wrong, and tries to take the fight to Pierre Gasly as the season goes on. We really hate for this to end after 5, 6, 7 races or whatever. But I hope he just puts his head down, continue to block out the noise, and just do the best that he can possibly do.
We'll see what he does at his first home race in Australia next weekend. You hear that, everybody? We're nearly through the off-season. I know everything else has started, but we all know when Formula One starts, everything truly returns to normal. It's been an okay season so far. It's weird for Formula One to be the latest to start. It really is quite a strange year we're having when it's got the busiest calendar of all the other motorsports, bar NASCAR. That seems to go on for an eternity. But still, that's going to be Australia next weekend as well, back in its traditional start point. Now, two-time Indianapolis 500 champion Josef Newgarden became the first car driver to sign with Klutch Sports Group. Now, in 2012, Klutch Sports Group was founded by Rich Paul, who is famously known for being the longtime agent of NBA legend LeBron James. Now, this agency represents some of the biggest names in American football, basketball, and now motorsports, with Newgarden becoming a client. Newgarden is riding a huge wave of momentum at the start of the IndyCar and Fox era, with his own commercial featuring Tom Brady making an appearance at the Super Bowl and starting the 2025 season off strong with a third place finish at St. Pete. Now, Newgarden told Adam Stern from Sports Business Journal that he believes this collaboration and partnership will accelerate what he's doing off the track and hopes to take IndyCar back to the forefront of motorsport, the graphic courtesy of Klutch Sports Group. Kobe, coming to you on this one as well. What's the significance of Josef Newgarden becoming a client of Klutch Sports Group? And can you tell us more about who Rich Paul is?
Yeah, Josh, when we got this news about Josef Newgarden signing with the Klutch Sports Group, especially since this is Rich Paul's agency, this is a massive, massive news story. I feel like is that this news story has not gotten the justification that it deserves in the media. Because if you follow the NBA closely, like I do, you know who Rich Paul is. Like you say, Josh, he's the longtime agent and friend of NBA great LeBron James. Also has some other notable clients in the NBA like Anthony Davis, Draymond Green, Darius Garland, Darren Fox. Also got clients in the NFL with Odell Beckham Jr., Chase Young, DeAndre Hopkins, and also some other NBA players as well. You have Lonzo Ball, Tyrese Maxey, and now Josef Newgarden joining an elite group of athletes there. And I see Rich Paul's, bringing Josef Newgarden on board as validation, not just for Newgarden, IndyCar, but the sport of auto racing in general. I know race car drivers, they get a lot of flack sometimes, where people who don't understand how this sport works. They say that race car drivers are not athletes or auto racing is not a sport or any of that. But I'll tell you one thing: if you are not an athlete, Rich Paul would not have anything to do with you. I'm just being totally honest about that. And Josef Newgarden, he's an athlete through and through and a true professional. And I think aligning with a major name in professional sports like Rich Paul will only take him to bigger and better places. I wonder if this means he could be getting a brand new contract from Team Penske in the not so distant future. And if so, Josef Newgarden is going to get paid big bucks, whether it's Team Penske or maybe an even bigger surprise if he decides to move on to another top IndyCar team or try something else, in a different form of auto racing or even opportunities outside of racing. One thing I know about Rich Paul, he takes really good care of his clients. All of those big names in professional sports, whether it's the NBA, NFL, and also forgot to mention, he's also the agent of college basketball star Juju Watkins as well. Rich Paul, he does a wonderful job taking care of all of his clients. I'm sure he's going to make sure that Josef Newgarden is taken well care of as well. I'm sure Josef Newgarden is probably pinching himself to be among an elite group of athletes who are represented by the great Rich Paul.
Well, you did mention it. I mentioned I had one last week on the show. Here it is. The Lakers coat, LeBron James, 23. It's on the back as well. There you go. All happy? All good? Good. Yeah, good. It is the right one, isn't it? I've just made a fool of myself in motorsport, basketball. Good. Auto racing drivers are athletes. They work hard in the gym and risk their lives each day when they compete as well. Absolutely. And they are athletes. And I think you are completely right, Kobe, what you said, that this news story hasn't received the big thing it should do, because it is a very big deal. We've seen how LeBron James has sort of revolutionized how it's done in basketball in terms of advertising. I'm wearing it right now. And I'm really hopeful that we can get some Josef Newgarden, merchandise out there, big and popular, because I think, in all honesty, IndyCar, it's on the up, isn't it? I had a really strong start at the weekend on Fox.
Yeah, definitely. The numbers for Fox look really, really good, and that's something that Fox Sports and IndyCar have to feel very excited about, because they've been working so hard, since this deal was announced to promote the sport and make sure that IndyCar was in the best possible position to succeed long term. And I'm actually looking at the numbers right now, Josh, that Fox Sports put out. This Sunday's race, the Firestone Grand Prix in the streets of St. Pete, received 1.4 million viewers, watched across Big Fox and Fox streaming services. And on this graphic, it says that viewership was up 45% versus last year's St. Petersburg season opener. And that's a really big deal for IndyCar. And this also ranks as the most watched non-Indy 500 race on any network since the year 2011. So that is just massive for IndyCar, and it shows that Fox has been doing a lot of really good work, and we'll see if it grows the sport long term. But they're definitely off to a really, really good start. So you got IndyCar on Fox off to a good start. The broadcast wasn't perfect by any means, but still a lot of room to grow. You also have to consider the fact it was the very first one. Yeah, so I'm going to give Fox some room to grow on that. But I thought for the most part they did a really good job during their first IndyCar race weekend. And one last point on Josef Newgarden and Rich Paul, that quote from him that he gave to the Sports Business Journal when he said, hoping that this is going to help take IndyCar back to the forefront of motorsports. I really hope that's going to be the case, because Rich Paul has definitely revolutionized, how he helps, his clients promote themselves and the type of deals he's going to get them. And I think IndyCar deserves to, be at the forefront of motorsports. And like Newgarden said when he was speaking to Fox over the weekend, he said that IndyCar has a good story, but not enough people, are out there telling it in a way that's, going to reach a much larger audience. So I think that there's a lot of really good things that are happening right now, and great things to come for the series. But I hope one thing, once Rich Paul, continues to work with Josef over time, I hope this won't be his only motorsports client, because there's a lot of other big names in motorsports who I think would really benefit from having their name attached to someone like Rich Paul, because you're attached to him, you're really doing big things.
Let's hope we get more of this in the future. Good start then from Klutch to get in motorsport people. Thank you, Kobe. On to our hot topic after this from Denver. Imagine if Jack Doohan will win the Australian F1 race. It's not too far out the reach. If it turns into a wet race at Albert Park, anything can happen. And we've seen stranger things happen. The last time, well, they were Lotus back then, but that team won the season opener. It was 2013 with Kimi Raikkonen. And Alpine seem to have a midfield car that seems level with the Aston Martins. I would argue, actually, I'd put Williams as 5th place in the Constructors' Championship. They've made massive improvements over the off-season as well. I think Megan had it somewhere in here, but I think it's oh no, it's here. It's on her chair. Here it is. As things drop on the floor, I put the running order as Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull, Mercedes, Williams, Aston Martin, Racing Bulls, Haas, Alpine, and Sauber. That's how I put them down as in our predictions chart. As I'll put that back on and notice that something fell off her chair as well. Yeah, so thank you, Kobe.
There. And and since you have Williams 5th on your list, if that turns out to be correct, Carlos Sainz moving to Williams might not be such a bad idea. After all, when he ended up losing his seat at Ferrari, I was thinking, man, he's on a Williams. That's going to suck for him, being able to contend for points on a regular basis, to going on a car, who would, just getting a single point in 10th place, it feel like a win. But considering the improvements they made over the offseason, maybe Carlos Sainz will still be in the thick of it.
Yeah, don't write Williams out yet. They are really on the up this season as well, and they've already got 2026 sort of locked in. And Adrian Newey's does that with Aston Martin as well. It's looking very good, and we can't wait for the Australian Grand Prix. So, in a surprising turn of events, the National Motorsports Appeals Panel has overturned Chase Briscoe's L2 level penalty. Now, Briscoe was penalised after the Daytona 500 when the spoiler base on the number 19 Toyota was found to be modified, and single source parts can't be modified under the rules. Now, in the 3-member panel that heard the appeal, they said the panel believes that the elongation of some of the holes on the number 19 Cup car spoiler base is caused by the process of attaching that specific spoiler base to the rear deck, and not modification of the single source part. Therefore, Briscoe's penalty of being docked 100 driver points, 100 owner points, 10 playoff points, the $100,000 fine for Joe Gibbs Racing, and the 4-race suspension for crew chief James Small has been rescinded. With his points back, Briscoe has moved up to 15th in the standings. Now, on social media, Briscoe thanked NASCAR for giving them the option to show their evidence, and thanked his team for spending countless hours putting together a case to present. Now, on a separate note, Austin Cindric was fined $50,000 and docked 50 driver points, which dropped him from 11th to 35th in the points. Now, during last Sunday's race at COTA, Cindric intentionally right rear hooked Ty Dillon on the front stretch. However, NASCAR decided to fine him and take away any points instead of issuing a 1-race suspension. On the latest episode of Hauler Talk, NASCAR competition officials said that Cindric wasn't suspended because this incident occurred on a road course with lower speeds and tighter confines. Plus, the incident didn't lead to a caution flag, and Dillon was able to continue in the race. Also, Kyle Larson's number 5 team will lose Jackman Brandon Johnson and front tyre changer Blaine Anderson for the next 2 Cup Series races after Larson lost his right front wheel, the photo taken by James Gilbert from Getty Images. Matt's back with me. Matt, are you surprised that Briscoe won the appeal? And do you agree with NASCAR's reasoning for deciding not to suspend Austin Cindric?
Nothing surprises me anymore, Josh. I'll be totally honest with you. It's another Wednesday, and we are again talking about NASCAR bumbling around in the dark, trying to figure out their own rule book. Let's start with Briscoe. So they decided post-race, the car that went back to the R&D Tech Center in Charlotte and was checked with the finest of the fine-tooth combs, and they said, this is wrong. And we're going to throw him out of the result. Big fine, James Small on the bench, etc., as you just explained. Then some 3 people in a room with drawings and photos have all stroked their chins and gone, you know what? I think they're probably wrong on this. Okay, fine. So what happens when it happens next time? Cindric. The good news, all of that, Briscoe, sorry, before we move on to Austin Cindric, the good news for Briscoe is it doesn't ruin the beginning of his season. He's back in the point standings in where he should be. Everything's as was. Good news for the 19 team. Gibbs on the up. Great couple of weeks for them with Christopher Bell winning the last 2 weeks. That's the sour point for JGR over the last couple of weeks, really. And that's now swept under the carpet. Cindric. Silly. Very silly to be doing that kind of thing in the opening stage of a race while the World Championship of 34th place was happening between 6 drivers at the back of the field in the opening laps. But the wording has floored me. They did it. He didn't get suspended because it was happening on tight confines on a road course. They would have been going faster at that point on the front straight at COTA than they would be doing at the exit of the corner at Martinsville, at the exit of the corner at North Wilkesboro for the All-Star race. So if it happens there and someone gets thrown out, you can come back to this, what we've just had this afternoon, and go, hang on a minute. If you look at the NASCAR data, he was going faster than we were and he didn't get suspended. Add to this the debacle over track limits over the weekend. Don't even get me started on that. We might do it in a little while when we get to hots and knots. Every single week, what are we now? 3 races down. So 3 post races, plus the little bit off the back of the duels at Daytona with the Eric Jones and Austin Cindric confusion over the photo finish, the confusion over Parker Klingerman's Truck Series win at Daytona. Please get to the bottom of where your rulebook stops. And get a handle on this, because it's every single week now we've had rules and drama of some description. It cannot go on.
It's getting very much ridiculous now. We've mentioned it so much in our not segment. Is the fact is that, do we end under yellow? Do we end under green? Are we racing back to the flag? Oh, but it's fine to leave it for the Xfinity race, but it's not fine to leave it for the Cup race because it was in a different angle. It's like, we're NASCAR sports. We don't need angles. Just explain to us, yes or no. Denver says, was NASCAR moved to the short course on COTA was a supercars inspired move after Fox Sports showed last SVG highlights of this race of the Austin 400 back in 2013, showing on the Fox Sports last year. Oh, that's good. I forgot about that because he dominated here on that short track back in 2013.
He didn't win any of the 4 races.
But he was good.
He was okay. He didn't win any of the races. It worked, certainly. It was a much better
big
race
improvement.
at the weekend than especially than last year's, goodness me.
You in the box with that we nearly fell asleep, didn't we?
Yeah, we did the race together. It was dreary. The first portion and then the last 12 to 15 laps of the race on Sunday, excellent. Really, really good. We've got to a point with the road course stuff now where we don't need to change anything. I think it's absolutely working well. Problem is we now have to wait till June to get to Mexico.
I know. I really want to see how that one works out. I think they're using a similar layout to what we have in Formula One, to Formula 2 to Formula One, because I don't think they're using the entire track, because that would go on forever. So I think they're cutting off part of it. So we'll see how that works off when we get the track map in. Maybe Kobe can. It's just the end. Thank you. Good. Am I having problems with my camera? I'm sorry if I am.
Your camera's better, but we're hearing a bit of an echo on us when we talk, and I think it might be coming from you.
I shall see what is going on with the equipment today. I mean, Megan had a problem when she came in for MotoGP. She put a headset on, and it took her like 5 minutes to get the audio levels right. So something's going on. I'll see what I can do in between. Really good stuff. The soft tire is working on the road courses. It really is. And actually, I want to bring this up quickly to you, Matt. Phoenix this weekend with the soft tire. Do you reckon it's going to be okay? We're sort of all going like that, aren't we? That it does work this time around.
It did okay at Richmond in the summer, the second race at Richmond when we had it last year. Of course, that race will not be remembered for the soft tyre, because that race will be remembered for Rost and Dillon going gung-ho at the end and crashing into everybody. But I like Phoenix. There's not been any issues really with the Phoenix races. We know what we get when we go there for the championship race. Spring is fairly different most of the time. So, but yeah, gives it a different angle. Don't say that NASCAR doesn't have gimmicks, because they clearly do. And this is another one, but let's hope it spices up the racing. Matthew also says now we get ready for the primary and alternate tyres this weekend. We just got through talking about that with IndyCar at St. Pete last week. And now we're going to be talking about primes and options and softs and hards and all sorts of things at the weekend at Phoenix. But looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting.
The real NASCAR season starts this week.
Really?
Well, we've had two super skippers and a road course. The meat and potatoes of the NASCAR season starts this week.
I agree with you there. Okay, I see your point now. Let's just hope we don't get any rain in the world, because it's the only one that we're fine without it. So let's have no rain in Phoenix. I know that sounds daft, but we've had it before, so never count it out.
Yeah.
We had rain in Bahrain last weekend in F1 testing. Can we just check it? Let's say that fault's or not, actually, because that was just bizarre with Bahrain. Now, our own Ben Schneider and Matthew Bro discussed this story on Monday night's Grid Encore show. Catherine Legg will make her NASCAR Cup Series debut on Sunday at Phoenix Raceway. Now, Legg will drive the number 78 Chevrolet for Live Fast Motorsports with sponsorship from Drop Light and Sharefik companies. Now, she will become the first female driver to compete in a Cup Series race since Danica Patrick, her final career start back in the 2018 Daytona 500. Now, in the last few years, Legg has competed in 5 Xfinity Series races, and she also ran a few laps in last month's ARCA race at Daytona before being taken out in a big crash. On her Instagram page, Legg said that she drove up to North Carolina for her seat fitting and also got to spend time in the simulator today to get an idea of how a Cup car would drive at Phoenix. Since there were only 37 cars entered, she'll make the race, but being competitive might be a challenge because it's her first Cup race. She doesn't have lots of stock car experience, and the equipment she'll be in won't be top notch. If there's not much attrition in this race, finishing in the top 30s on debut will be a huge win for Legg and the number 78 team. In the press release, she said entering the Cup Series is a dream come true and is having fun during her short time in stock car racing. The graphic courtesy of Live Fast Motorsport. Well, she is the fastest woman in history as well at the Brickyard. Definitely a million times better than Danica Patrick, and she's not a lizard. So are you looking forward to Catherine Legg's Cup Series debut, Matt?
All positives, isn't it? Yes, I am. Really good. I love the way that Kat has done her career path. Sort of coming up through the ranks here in the UK, British F3, then moved to Champ Car. Then she's done some sports car racing. She's done some other bits and pieces here and there. Pikes Peak a couple of years ago she went and did just because, for the hell of it, and now she's turning her attention to stock cars. What to expect at the weekend? Run all the laps, don't get in the way, not that she's to use a Shane Van Gisbergen line, one of the wobblers at the back. Just run the race. And, as you said, it's not the best equipment in the world, but it's great to see another female at the top level. And let's just see how she goes. Just another thing for British NASCAR fans to cheer, because we haven't had much of that to cheer for since Dario, I guess, and that didn't particularly go great, did it? So that's good for us this side of the pond, and just hope that she has a fairly solid and fast weekend, and if she can avoid any carnage that comes her way, then more the power to her elbow.
Yes, Matt, I must just point out a remember as well of how it goes as well. The great drivers. Dario Franchitti, when he drove an IndyCar, British. When he drove at NASCAR, Scottish. David Coulthard, Scottish. Jackie Stewart,
Andy Murray.
British. Andy Murray, British. / Scottish. / British / Scottish. He flirts that line quite a lot, doesn't he, as well? But yeah, Jim Clark, British.
It's his birthday today. Would have been Jim Clark's birthday today.
It would be. Happy birthday to Jimmy as well. I wish he was still around. My God, legend is Jimmy Clark. I often go through my top 10, and he's always in the top 3. He's always in the top 3 of mine. He is such a racer. I think it's Jimmy Clark, Sterling Moss, and then I'm not going to tell you the number 1 because that keeps flicking around when I go through, and it's always hard to pin them around. But you've got to go with, I think, when you think about your top 10 all-time drivers, you have to look at every series. And you they called Moss Mr. Motorsport, Jim Clark, that amazing season in, what was it, 64. Just amazing what he did.
Sounds like a roundtable show coming on here.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. Discuss your greatest driver.
Put it down, Joe. Scribble this down.
Yeah, that
top 10 of all time.
I'll be on for that. We discussed the top 10. That sounds like a brilliant roundtable. Okay, let's head over to you, Matt, for the latest from our Grid EPI update.
Thank you, Josh. We talked to WEC at the beginning of the show, and we're going to talk about it now because their season got underway on Friday in the Middle East in Qatar. The first round of the season, the 12-kilometer race, which took just over 10 hours to compete, and it was won by Ferrari. And they actually took the whole of the hypercar podium. There is the winning car from Antonio Fuoco, Nicholas Nielsen, and Miguel Molina. Congratulations to them. The second of the factory Ferraris came in 3rd place. It was split in the middle by the yellow AF Corsa Robert Kubica car. So 1, 2, 3 for Ferrari in Qatar in hypercar on Friday. In the GT category, 18th place overall was the position of the winning car for TF Sport. Ben Keating, Johnny Edgar, and Danny Yokandaya at the wheel of their Corvette. There it is, with Big Keating down the side. So big start for the WEC this weekend in Qatar. Their next race is, he says, trying to remember off the top of his head, Spa, which is a little while away. We have to wait for that one. But, it's Imola, isn't it, the second race of the season? So yeah, that's not so far away. So that is next month. But we have a week off of the Grid EPI this week. The final race weekend of the season for all of the endurance races that we cover in the EPI that has nothing on this weekend until November. So the spreadsheet gets a rest, and then we power back up next weekend with the Sebring, or weekend after next, with the Sebring 12 hours in Florida, of which the entry list will be out tomorrow for that race. So keep an eye out for that coming out of IMSA tomorrow afternoon as we build up to the IMSA Sebring 12 hours, which is the next Endurance Performance Indexed race to count towards the 2025 Grid Endurance Performance Index. Now let's hand over to Kobe. He's got more of the headlines of the week, and there has been a fair few.
Thanks, Matt. Time for some more motorsports news from around the world. 14-year-old Carter McMurray, son of Daytona 500 champion and current NASCAR broadcaster Jamie McMurray, will run full-time this year in the Smart Modified Tour. Carter will drive the number 40 PSR product Chevrolet and made his series debut last Saturday at Florence Motor Speedway. He competed in a race that had the likes of Ryan Newman, Joey Coulter, and Burt Myers. Carter ended up finishing 5th in his first Smart Modified Tour race. His father, Jamie McMurray, praised Carter for working hard to get this opportunity and believes that racing modifieds is the best place for him to gain experience. Photo courtesy of Pro Sport Management. 2024 F1 Academy champion Abby Pullen parted ways with the Alpine Academy. In a statement, Pullen said she decided not to renew her contract with the Alpine F1 team's driver development program after lengthy discussions. She also said she's excited to start a new chapter this year with Rodin Motorsport in GB3. In return, Alpine thanked Pullen for the memories they've made together and wished her the best of luck in the future. Graphic courtesy of Alpine F1. And after the conclusion of last Saturday night's Cars Tour Pro late model race season opener, Jade Avedizian made history by becoming the first female driver to win a Cars Tour sanctioned event. Initially, TJ DeCare had taken the checker flag and won the race at New River All-American Speedway on track before failing post-race inspection for a left side weight infraction. This promoted Avedizian to race winner in the history books. In the last few years, Avedizian has been successful in dirt racing, previously making the Chili Bowl Nationals a main in her first attempt, and now she started to transition from dirt to asphalt. Avedizian said she preferred to cross the finish line first and win that way, but a win is a win, so she'll take this one and see how many more wins she can get later this season. Photo courtesy of Toyota Gazoo Racing, North America. Retina surgeon Dr. Patrick Starpoli signed with Venturini Motorsports to run part-time this year in the ARCA Menard Series. Starpoli's first race will be this Friday night at Phoenix under the lights, driving the number 25 Toyota with sponsorship from Cyfore. He'll also compete in ARCA races at Talladega, Charlotte, Bristol, and Rockingham. In 2013, the Harvard graduate made headlines by winning the Pete Stock Car Dream Challenge to earn an opportunity to drive in ARCA West the following year. And Starpoli even defeated current NASCAR Cup Series driver Chase Briscoe in that competition to race in ARCA West. Starpoli said it's been a lifetime of sacrifices and hard work to resume his racing career at this level of stock car racing. Photo courtesy of Venturini Motorsports. Kyle Larson and William Byron will join Spire Motorsports for a trio of upcoming NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series races. Both Hendrick Motorsports Cup Series drivers will drive the number 07 Chevrolet with sponsorship from HendrickCars.com. Larson will compete in truck races at Homestead and Bristol, two trucks he's really good at, and also William Byron will get behind the wheel at Martinsville. In the press release, Larson said he loves the two tracks he's running and hopes to battle for a pair of victories in the Spire truck, while Byron said he won at Martinsville the last time he was in a truck there and hopes to do it again. Graphic courtesy of Spire Motorsports. And that's all the headlines I have for you this week. So I'm going to turn over to Matt for Hots and Knots.
Before we get to Hots and Knots, just a reminder that there is pick a winner at the weekend, and there is only 1 point up for grabs, and it is for the Cup race we were talking about before at Phoenix. That is the only point available this week after a mammoth point scoring weekend last week. We'll perhaps have an updated scoreboard for you on the show. Post Phoenix next week, building up to another big weekend of pick a winners where we've got Sebring, Le Mans, NASCAR. Not Le Mans, sorry, Formula One is what I meant when I said Le Mans, and NASCAR and many others as well. That's right. Josh is back with me for Hots and Knots, which was a very busy weekend, which we like. Matthew Owens, how old am I? Jamie McMurray's kid is racing. Yes. We're all getting extremely vintage. Yeah, plenty of things to talk about off the back of the weekend. The floor is yours, my friend.
Danica Patrick. Sky Sports employ her for the basis that the American company ESPN asked them to have a female American racing driver on their coverage. Did they have to pick one who is so incredibly rude, racist, and bleep crazy, can't swear because the FIA, that she attacks the president of Ukraine on Twitter? Like, I'm sorry, but isn't Sky F1 literally, and the whole Sky, neutral? I'm literally just looking her tweets now. I don't follow her, as you can see. There you are. And I am 3 days ago by now, 5 days ago. This is it, 5 days ago, the tweet she put out. I just can't take Zelensky seriously in that tracksuit. 174B later and still no suit. ... All respect. She's been community noted. This is my favourite. And I have rated it very nicely because I have that power. Danica Patrick was the worst ever at what she was supposedly a professional at. Her punditry has been terrible since retiring, and her political opinions apparently are still somehow the worst thing about her. Yeah, that was quite a fun one. Another one. Not going to lie, while Danica does have terrible opinions and is an awful commentator and pundit, the note on this post is unrelated, not needed. Somebody has replied to the community note by saying, take a look at these results of her in NASCAR. Statistically, she's one of the worst drivers ever. And then take a look at her failing podcast numbers and her failing numbers. So, yeah, there's been a bit of a war going on. Then somebody has replied directly to Sky Sports F1 asking for her to be sacked. Sky have actually responded to this by saying, basically, we thank you for your opinion. Go away.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, and thank you, Jackson. I was getting to this. That tweet by Danica was retweeted by our good friend Dan, who is Engine Mode 11 on Twitter.
Former Red Bull employee.
Yes, the former Red Bull employee. He didn't even do anything really bad. Just commented. In the world of free speech that is X. Bang! Bye-bye went his account. Gone. Like that. We are being led by... just can't do it. Get Danica off the airways. She is no longer a motorsport pundit. She is a political weapon. Get her off the broadcasts now. Seriously, that's my ultimate knot. Forget Mohammed Ben, whatever he's doing this week with, NDAs and everything like that, because that is an internal FIA matter that they can deal with quite quickly at the elections. In my honest opinion, and I've never been more deadly serious in my 5 years I've been doing this on Grid Network, Danica Patrick, if she continues to be allowed to be on Sky Sports F1 in the Formula One paddock, where there is diversity and inclusion at the heart of the sport now. They are desperately trying to regroup and battle against the FIA. They do not need to be battling against Sky Sports. They do not need to be battling against their own people. Get rid of her now. And just forget her. Why is she on every broadcast? Get rid. Forget her. Do not give this bigot airtime. That's what I'm saying. You can quote it or never. Get rid of her. Absolutely hate it. It just drives me up the wall, mate. Honestly, it really does. That's my ultimate knot. It really annoyed me, all those things that she's been saying and tweeting out. And it just... Everybody in the paddock doesn't want her there anyway. Everybody. She did something... she's on Drive to Survive again this season, just to give you a heads up. And already, the early reviews for that is coming in, and they're saying that Danica is literally just a waste of oxygen on that show. She does nothing. She's become worse than Will Buxton was on it. She offers nothing at all, nothing relevant. And yet, we have actual females in racing who are being ignored, who are being looked down upon, who are so much more than what she ever was. It is driving me up the wall. We've talked about it on this programme, Catherine Legg. Nobody, I feel, bar us, mentions she is the fastest qualifying woman in history at the Brickyard. She raced her way in, and she didn't just was the last one in. She topped that group. She was faster than Power at one point. She was in that qualifying stage. She was faster than... She beat Rahal. It was unbelievable that we're here. Yes, Danica has been on pole for big races. Danica has led big races. But she's only ever won one race, arguably, you could say, because half of the entire field was at Long Beach doing the final kart race while the IRLs were in Japan. So, look, I know I go on about it a lot, but in my opinion, as I've said, she is no longer a motorsport creator and pundit. She is a dangerous political weapon that cannot be allowed to continue in punditry at all. How long until she crosses the line live on air? How long until she goes too far? And it's then a political nightmare. It's ridiculous. Well, anyway, that's my ultimate not done.
First weekend of May, I suggest that's the Miami Grand Prix, isn't it?
Yeah.
Suitgate.
she's in
He doesn't
Australia.
wear a suit. If you've not been paying attention to this, he doesn't wear a suit, and that's where we'll leave that. Zelensky does not wear a suit. Why should he have to? Right, let's move on. Let's go back to some positive stuff.
Please.
MotoGP, IndyCar, and Formula One have all updated their graphics packages for this year, and they all look great.
They do. Really happy with it. It took a while to get used to the IndyCar because it is too different, but I know there's tweaks coming on the international feed, but oh god, it looks good, doesn't it?
That was going to be a knock. I don't know why we don't have this much with NASCAR, the international feed, a little bit, but not so much. The IndyCar's international feed, every time Townsend Bell opened his mouth, he was talking about something that was on screen that we couldn't see on the international feed. If you're watching on Fox, then he had it. But on the international feed, we didn't see half the stuff that he was talking about. Other MotoGP hot, Marc Marquez.
Well,
first time he's led the championship after the first round since 2013, which is madness.
And he won it.
And how many races has it been since he last led the championship? Oh, that's right. 93.
It's cute, isn't it?
It's amazing how this stuff always works like that, isn't it? Just crazy.
I really like how we've sort of got this Marc Marquez sort of point two. It's like we know he proves it was the Honda all this time. As I've by the way, I've just realised what it was. Yes. So Mark, I said from day dot, wait until he's on that factory bike. He'll blitz everybody and show who the real champion is. I said it several times in the commentary that Martin and Bagnaia got lucky in their championships. I'm sorry, but they did. They threw it away too many times. They were crashing too many times. They looked into their championships because Mark wasn't around. Because
Fabio as well, perhaps? Would you add him to that list?
He did have challenge from Mia and Suzuki, but I would also add Fabio to that list. But he dropped back. Yamaha went strong, and then they dropped back. Ducati really outclassed themselves with these new engine regs that have been frozen now. But Mark wasn't there, so everyone since 2020 really. But the Honda was wrong. Can't let go out. Honda was wrong. Mark was wrong, and then as soon as Mark was right, it was the bike that was. So 2023, Mark was fine, but we could all tell the Honda was just at that point too far gone. So he moved to Gresini, got his love back for racing.
Yeah.
Got the main team, and has gone, right, where was I? Here we go again. And he's taken off. Absolutely. And it's been a bit of a wake-up call to Bagnaia. And what I like is that clearly what Mark has experienced with this, he's told to Alex, because Alex is a world champion as well, but they were 1-2 sprint, 1-2 qualifying sprint race. Domination. I called it. It's the new version of the Brothers Grimm. Fantastic at the race. Brilliant stuff. And that's going to continue all year long. Bagnaia, as Megan points out in commentary, thought he'd only have to take on one Marquez. He's going to have to take on both of them at the prime of their lives. It is going to be amazing this season. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. And we've got Argentina next. That was another one on that big pickle in a weekend in a couple of weeks. Argentina next. And then Cota. Two tracks where Mark will probably win. And then they're back to Europe at Jerez, which is a knock coming up in a moment. Yeah. Where it'll be Bagnaia perhaps time again. Jackson going on with the IndyCar number for Fox, which is tremendous, really, really good. Here's another hot. Let me do Adams first quickly. Mark is in Thailand hot. IndyCar awesome start to the year on Fox. Conor Zilic winning the Xfinity race after looking like he was quite bored, decided to get a penalty, put himself at the back, and then drove through to win, much like he tried to do again on Sunday before he got interrupted by Daniel Suarez. Another Team hot, Botany. That was not a good moment for Team Trackhouse, was it? Another hot for next week, which I'm not sure, Josh, you have realised this or no. The American clock changes this weekend. So for us, the show is 3 weeks. We have an hour earlier show for Grid Tonight for us because of clock change.
Oh, yes!
It will be 9:30 our time. It's the most wonderful time of the year when we get to do the show an hour earlier for us.
It really is.
Same time for everybody else around the world, perhaps, but for us, it's an hour earlier next week, for the next couple of weeks until the end of March. So that's good.
That's brilliant, because I was worried I was going to have to miss it because of Formula 3 next week having their press conference Wednesday at 11. So that's fine.
For Melbourne, Denver says, what's hot NASCAR Annex, the Cup Annex Xfinity COTA races, not Cup Super qualifying at COTA. They should have Supercars Top 10 shootout. They've been meddling with NASCAR qualifying over the last few years, haven't they? And I'm still quite not sure they've got it right. I think Matthew Owens will agree with me on that one. Should we transition to knots quickly before we get out of here for the week? We've done Danica. Other knots. I mentioned it earlier. I'm just going to say it and move on. Track limits at COTA. The white line is the edge of the racetrack. Knots, MotoGP knots. Scott Ogden in Moto 3 getting knocked off at the last corner of the last lap, and he could see the finish line, but he was laying on the ground, which was really just a horrible image. He was fine, but he didn't quite finish the race because he could see the line. It was over there. And also MotoGP related knots, the burning of all the riders at the weekend in the oppressive Thailand heat. Especially Fabio Di Giannantonio on Saturday, who had to retire because his bike overheated and it burnt him.
Yeah, we were actually worried on Sunday, would we have to reduce the race distance to actually make sure that people could get there? Because it was affecting Moto 3 a lot. Those young kids, I felt really sorry for. 10 crashes as well due to the heat. And them all just losing vision. They were having real problems with it. Moto 2 went okay, but that race was a lot slowed down. Thankfully, we had a bit of cloud cover come over for Moto 2, and then by the time MotoGP came around, it was somewhat okay, and we could get to the end. But tire pressure was the big thing with MotoGP, not being allowed to go below that 60%, which is what nearly caught Mark out at the front. But yeah, it was very much a hot one. There's problems looking like we might not go back to Thailand after 2026 because Bangkok want a F1 race in the city centre, and the Changi International Circuit wants to keep its MotoGP race. So it's sort of like a yin-yang. Personally, I don't think F1 needs to go to Thailand at all. I know we have Thai drivers, but keep it as it is with MotoGP. It's a bike country and they love it. So leave it as it is. We tried to go to Vietnam. Look how that worked. Historically, a bike country. Cars only came to Vietnam in 2002? Something like that. So I'm glad that race never happened because we were idiots for going there. That's a bike. That should be a bike track. The only note I've got from the whole racing weekend, it did come from Formula One. It was in testing, and that is the Bahrain circuit. I mean, how the hell did we do that? We literally have the most reliable bulletproof cars in F1 history. Not one stopped. Not one stop, not one retirement. The most laps ever completed in testing. But we had red flags for glass smashing, lights going out, rain, mopeds on tracks, and then, bizarrely, a bus on a track. I've never seen that before. Bahrain literally just wanted to kill the drivers this week. It was bizarre. I've never seen anything like it.
Taking its revenge for not being the season opener.
Yeah, it's like, right, send out the bus. I did like what some people said on Twitter. Oh, well, that's the bus that Alpine are going to throw Jack Doohan under. I like that little bit. It made me laugh. But the glass shattering, apparently, they took some VIPs up to the control tower. And one of the men who went up there, in his big blazer and suit and very rich, he leant on the flag pole and the flag went straight through the window and shattered. Because it's a metal flagpole, and it went straight through the glass.
That's interesting. I heard it was Ollie Behrman that had driven down that side of the straight and flicked a stone up and smashed the screen. That's what
I heard the flagpole.
Okay, well.
Oh, well, I'll do some digging. Maybe it's a bit of both. Maybe it cracked it and the flagpole did it.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll do some digging into that. Actually, I'll go finding out. That's what I heard from Haas team press officer who was next to.
Maybe that
So
come out
I'll
after
well, to be fair,
I'd heard then.
Behrman is Haas, so
Well,
yeah, I'll do some digging. I'll ask her. Did you throw it up? Did Behrman throw it up? Because I know his engine cover came off as well. Down
true.
Straight. I'll do some digging into that then and report back next week. But yeah, other than that, no. Mohammed Ben Salem, being his usual dictator, that's usually a not.
Well, he's been busy this week because he was driving the Ford Dakar Raptor somewhere in the desert. There were some pictures on Dirtfish earlier in the week of him driving that. So he's actually been doing some proper motorsport stuff rather than talking about words.
I wonder how many times he swore.
That's what a lot of people said in the comments.
Oh, right, no. Good.
Every time he went over a dune. Oh, bleep! I can't say.
Shame he couldn't end up like Margaret Thatcher's son in the Dakar Rally, is it?
All those years ago. A famous Dakar story. Look it up, kids.
Yeah, that one's for Google, kids.
That's one for Google.
Last bit, I feel very old. It's not motorsport related, but this is a not. I feel very old this week because Doctor Who have announced that they're doing a historical episode as well, and motorsport will feature with a Formula One race. Would anyone like to guess what year they're going to travel back to for the historical episode?
67.
You're close with a 7. 2007.
Really?
That is now classified as a historical episode, everybody. So I now feel really old. Told Megan that the other day. She collapsed to the floor. She was like,
talking of on a similar thread, we talked about MotoGP graphics before. They've added onto some of the rider graphics the date of birth of the riders.
Yes, I noticed
when you're watching Moto 3, oh God, I'm really old.
I hate it.
All these 16-year-old kids in Moto 3, and it's just like born 2004. It's like, oh God, really?
I know. I hate it. I mean, hang on. I was looking at everybody else, and Megan is clinging to the fact that she is 8 days older than Ollie Behrman is. She's really holding on to that. She's like, no, he's 8 days older. It's fine. It's fine. And then I told her about Gabriele Bortoletto, and she sort of punched the desk. But didn't actually. So yeah, not happy. But yeah, so we all feel very old now. The reason I bring it up is because apparently during the episode there's a Formula One race on. Don't know when it'll be, but 2007, Lewis Hamilton, they're probably trying to cash in as well. With it being Disney, I wouldn't be surprised if it's America or maybe Canada, maybe the way. But yeah, there you go. Right, I'm done with my hots and hots. You?
Yeah, same. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, Kirby, don't make me feel old. I was Kirby just put, we've got some kids starting late model racing. I was like, oh. Yeah, I was old when I was.
2010.
Did you see Dan Weldon's kids on the weekend coverage?
The weekend at St. Pete. Yeah.
Old, feeling old now. Really
I also very much enjoyed the picture of Brian Herter, Dario Franchitti, Tony Kanaan, and at the Dan Weldon statue. That was very, very, very good.
Oh dear. I mean, I miss it so much. Can't wait to get going. Right, we'll all be sleep deprived next week when he says, because we'll be prepping for our Australia coverage, which means that we don't sleep all weekend because everything is on. Because what was it next week? NASCAR, IndyCar, MotoGP, God knows what else. It's going to be a biggie. It's going to be fun though, as they're at Thermal, I think. So, taking a closer look at our upcoming schedule, it's nice and calm this weekend. Saturday, Grid Roundtable, noon Eastern, to preview the 2025 Formula One season as well. Sunday, Grid Live Wrap-Up. That's 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Phoenix Raceway. Monday, Grid Encore is at 7 p.m. Eastern, recapping the ARCA and Xfinity races at Phoenix. Please continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for helping us reach 1,500 subscribers. And now we're inching closer to our next milestone of 2,000 subscribers. You can hit the bell icon to get notifications so you'll always know when we go on the air. And you can follow our social media platforms and visit our website, gridnetworktv.com. You can take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Rochelle, Robin, David, and Matthew, who invest each month in the Grid Network. And we do encourage you to join these fine folks, help us keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can afford to send our team to the track more often and continue growing our media outlet. The link to all of that is in the video description below. And if you want to make a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board, and invest as much as you want. Consider buying a specific on-air personality cup of coffee, and they will thank you on the air. For Kobe Lambeth and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index, I'm Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.